got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio.
This is Home Show Radio live on Facebook and YouTube. Your questions, Tom's answers. Now here's Tom Tynan and Charlie Mosier.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Facebook / what's the other one?
YouTube
Live. Yes, thank you, Charlie.
I know it's kind of an obscure thing. Very few people are using it, but yeah.
I don't even know how to get on it. But if you do, you can watch us right now.
That's right.
So I'm sure your skills are 1,000-fold better than mine. But when it comes to home improvements on the radio, that's where I shine. On Saturdays and Sundays on Sports Radio 610, in the morning, Saturday 9 to noon, Sunday, for the most part, unless Texans now are playing an early game, it'll be 8 to 11 or 7 to 9 in the morning. We're getting up a little early, but that's the way it goes. It's okay. It's only for a few weekends. So that's what I do on weekends, and today we're going to answer your questions here.
Yeah, it's going to be a compressed season, right? Like baseball, I think it's only like 13 weeks or something.
You know, I don't know. I really just have been too busy.
Every year, but no, it's, yeah. So the Texans are fixing to start up, and that means they'll bump us around on Sunday morning a little bit.
I know.
Who cares?
They play tonight.
Huh?
They start the season tonight. That's the first game. They play the World Series champions. Series. Super Bowl. That's what it is.
The Astros were in, San Diego last night. Where are they tonight? I don't know. Anyway, so that's not what we do this witty sport banter when we're on 610 because that's where you hear us locally. But
I'll let the sports pros do that.
Exactly. What we're here to do is answer the questions you send us at Home Show Radio under the Ask Tom tab, but we created this Thursday afternoon live Facebook and YouTube broadcast so that you can actually get your questions to us here while we're doing the show. All you have to do is put them in the comments section down there underneath, and they'll come up in a little window here, and I'll put them up, and Tom can answer them. And not just Tom, but oh no, my friends, we'll also be joined today by one of our Home Show pros, the erudite, the sophisticated and debonair Jason Whittington from Texas Floors. He'll be joining us here in just a few minutes to answer some questions too. So that's the name of the game. And we've got questions today, Tom, on shower pans, AC sizing, insulation, and a bunch of other stuff. So what do you say we get right to it?
As long as you don't call me an erudite, because I don't know what that means and I might punch you in the nose.
It's a positive thing.
Oh, is it good?
Yeah, okay. for the most part. Okay, it depends.
You tell a rioter, hey, you're an erudite. Who knows what's going to happen to you?
How big your part? Isn't there a cream for that? All right.
Erudites rule.
Let's get to the question.
Questions you say.
First question today comes from Cecilia in Rosenberg. She says, my parents' 1973 home has a 32 by 32 inch shower with a leaking shower pan, and a plumber says there's mold behind the walls which appear to have water damage. She wants to know, where do I begin? I mean, who do I hire to start on this job? And she's wondering, now you'll like this is my favorite part of the question. Can this demolition be DIY? Suddenly my brother wants to demo it but has no experience. What say you, Tom?
Look at my face. Brothers stay home. Okay. You know, I've had this question many times, and I asked Jeff over at Trifection Remodeling. I said, Jeff, I get these questions about shower pans that are leaking. This day he goes, Tom, tell them to call us, 281 Kitchen. Here's the reason. It's going to take a multitude of contractors to rebuild a shower. You're going to have demo guys, and they need to know what they're doing, especially if there's a mold issue, or you can contaminate an entire home. You're going to have plumbers. You're going to have guys that'll hang the rock and stuff. Then you're going to have tile people. Then you're going to have the glass company come in and do the glass. And then who knows what it's going to lead into through the bathroom. So you want one company that's going to back it all. If not, you get your brother to do the demo after that. Any problems? You know what you're going to get? It's his fault. No, it's his fault. No, it's his fault. And you'll never have anybody fix the problem. One contractor, whole thing. My case, I would tell you Trifection.
It makes it so much easier. You're right, Tom, because then you have one person to yell at.
Well, you don't yell at. You say, hey, my shower door's crooked. Oh, we'll come out and fix it. I'll send the guy out because the guy wants more work from him. So everybody's going to take care of you, and these guys are good, and nobody to yell at. Everything's good because you're dealing with one person, one-on-one. They deal with all the rest.
Now, when you are looking for somebody who knows what they're talking about in your house, Tom, who do you turn to?
Let me see. Did you just bait the hook and throw it in the water? Are you leading me?
I am. You know, a moment ago you didn't know what erudite means.
You'll find all our contractors. In fact, I was on Facebook today.
Oh, no, that's not where I was going at all. But you go ahead, run that ball.
Thank you. One of my Facebook friends showed pictures of expert remodeling, and now she's trying to sue the guy who's nowhere to be found. And I answered her. She goes, I don't know what I did wrong. She didn't go to homeshowradio.com and find a good contractor. And I didn't want to rub it in their face, but that's what they did wrong.
Well, that's kind of you. No, what I was going for more at your house, the expert, as the expert at my house, is my expert is Sandy. Yours is Sandra.
No,
and
I'm
she,
the expert in improvements.
All right. Well, she must be the expert in grammar and
oh, yes.
Right. Well, okay.
Makeup and making sure the camera's right and the lighting's right. And, hey, you look fat in that shirt. Mm-hmm. Go get another shirt so you don't look so fat. And then I turn around and say, is that why you're wearing a moo-moo? I mean, sure, we have these conversations, but...
So Tom has the home improvement advice. Listen, what I'm trying to get to, I was going to say, people are going to be diving off here. Okay, here's the thing. You didn't know what erudite means. And Sandra has written in to let you know that erudite means having or showing great knowledge or learning. So I know Jason's sitting there. Jason, see, you were smarter than you thought you were. See that? So we got you. All right. Let's get the next question here. Next one comes from Mike in Tomball. He says, my wife and I moved into a brand new 2,151 square foot home in February. We have a 3-ton AC unit. A friend says we need at least 4 tons to keep up with the heat. It seems like the AC runs a lot. I think I heard you say that most new houses have undersized AC units. Tom, does it sound like he has an undersized unit?
Well, you'll know if it runs all the time. And let's say you set a temperature of 74 degrees when you go to bed. And it never gets to 74 and it runs all night or all day for that matter. Day is a better barometer if it's keeping up. And it should keep up. That's going to show you that it's too small. There's no doubt about it. Now, you could have some other underlying things like insufficient airflow, refrigerant charge that isn't properly done. So there's some other things. For the most part, 3 tons for 21 to 2,200 square feet. And that's even with just a standard 8-foot ceiling and very few windows. That's still undersized as far as I'm concerned. But then some people run it, Charlie, at 78, 80, and they never go below it. And that's perfectly fine if they're comfortable. Me, I'm down 72 to 70 when I go to bed at night. I don't care if it's 100 degrees outside, and I want my system to cycle.
I'm all over that. I think it's rare that our thermostats ever set above 70 in the summertime. Now, in the wintertime, for some reason, it's got to be up by about 74. I don't know why that is. But
oh, my God, that's too hot. Wintertime is when you put it at 68.
Well, I'm married to a Texan, and, they're tough about everything except cold.
I say cashmere sweater. She'll be fine.
Be very quiet. All right. Hey, just as you can see, Sandra sent in a comment. You can send in one too, by the way. If you're watching, we'd love to hear from you. Even if you just want to say hi and tell us where you are, by the way, that'd be kind of fun to know if we got people from all over joining us on the show today. We'll put your comments up and answer your questions. That's why we're live on Facebook and the YouTube here. So third question comes to us, Tom, from Jervis in Tomball. He says, I have a pier and beam home. He wants to know, should I insulate underneath it?
Okay, first off, before we get to the answer, and the answer I got, it's easy.
Yeah.
Mine is Sandra. His is Sandy.
Yes.
These are our wives' names. So when you're talking, they don't know. So we have to make sure people know.
Yeah, and my mom's dog's name is Sandy.
I'm not going there.
She lives in Sandy, Utah.
I have a Sandra.
Okay.
Sandra does not have a pier and beam home, so she will not be writing in and telling me a pier and beam home is this. But I know with a pier and beam home, if it was mine, I wouldn't insulate under the floor. I would not do it. There's no reason to do it. It gets a little cold in the winter, I understand. So put some fuzzy slippers on or turn the heat on a little more. 74, like Charlie said, is fine. You'll feel very comfortable. But as far as summertime energy savings and all of this, it does more harm than good because it traps a lot of moisture. And I know we're going to talk to Jason here very shortly, and he probably would comment on the fact that when the moisture gets trapped, you have the pier and beam homes, they have traditional wood floors. Sometimes they have some problems with buckling and curling and cupping, and it can be an issue if you don't have the perfect ventilation and the right humidity. So I wouldn't do it. Now, I would insulate under the master bath or the bathrooms, because let's face it, even in the wintertime, that's where you're naked. You're taking your shower, you're getting out, you're drying off, you want a little extra comfort. I probably would even put in a radiant floor heat if the house deserved it as far as the quality of the house, and be real comfortable in the bathroom, but I would not do the whole house.
You know, I couldn't. I think the radiant heating in the flooring is the first time I ever experienced that. I was like, how long has this been going on?
I was putting them in people's master bathrooms, not the whole house, but the master bathrooms. Boy, did they like that in the wintertime.
I bet. Well, I want you to be very quiet because we're getting ready to remodel ours, and I don't want to get into that added expense. So,
It's not that expensive in the bathroom.
We have we got somebody who written in. And by the way, if you'd like to participate, this is kind of an interactive thing. We'd love to hear from you on Facebook and YouTube. You put your comments in the questions, your questions and stuff in the comment area, and we'll get it here, and we can put it up on the screen. Here's one. Now, there's a story I've heard you tell many times, but this comes from a guy named Ken Foley's up in the Dallas area. He's using his wife's Facebook, and he's got a little kitten on there. But he says, I'm going to test your memory, Tom. Do you recall coming to the Exxon building on Bell Street to give a talk? It was many years ago, and he can't even guess how many. Oh, hang on, it went away on me. I'm sorry. And he says, while you were there, your wife, he says, while you were on honeymooning in the Caribbean, you got robbed. He's never been moved by such a telling experience. Do you remember that visit when you came there? Because he's followed you ever since.
Is that in Dallas, Bell Street?
Yeah. No, Bell Street here in Houston, I think.
Right. Now, okay,
Right.
The reason I asked that, you said he was listening from Dallas.
Right.
I gave a lot of talks at Exxon, and I really enjoyed it, by the way. I had a lot of fun. And yes, I used to tell that story because the talk was about safety. And I put a different twist on it. And the whole part, I had 5 different tips. That was one of the 5. And the reason I use that is because if I hadn't been wearing my seatbelt when I got shot when I was driving the car, my wife and I probably would have been killed. But we survived it, and I got out of there. We fought our way out only because I had my seatbelt on. So I use that as an example as how important a seatbelt is, because you never know, even on your honeymoon.
Right.
And you're going to rely on that seatbelt.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, I do remember.
Whether you're in the Caribbean or Portland or wherever, you always want to wear your
Thomas.
you want to wear your seatbelt. Okay. All right. If you have any more questions, we'd love to get them. But it's time to bring on our guest. And Jason, you want to unmute your mic there, because here we come. We got Jason Whittington's joining us now from Texas Floors. And actually, you are at Texas Floors today, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, you're still muted there, buddy.
Yep, at Texas Floors office today.
There you go, the world headquarters of Texas Floors. And now I know you guys have had to adapt like a lot of other people have had to do here because of the COVID crazy and all. But you're still coming to people's houses rather than us having to come to you. Is that right?
Yeah, we're still doing both things. So like always, we're still coming out. We're wearing our mask and coming out and measuring our home and bringing samples as needed. But the showroom is still open as well. We're open. We're taking customers. We're making sure we're not getting too many in. Everyone's wearing their mask. But we're happy to bring the samples out to you, because we're going to have to measure your home at some point. But nothing replicates coming to the showroom and seeing all the samples at once.
And
Jason,
and
is it better for them to make an appointment right now to come see you?
We always prefer appointments. That way we can be prepared for you to come in. But no, we're not requiring appointments at this time. We're open, full staffed. Come on in, normal business hours. So you're welcome to come in as needed. But we always appreciate an appointment. That way we can make sure we have maybe some stuff pulled out for you, and just expecting we can give you better service right away.
Okay.
We have a question that's come in for you, Jason, from Nick, and he says it's a question for Jason. He says, I have a 10 by 30 metal building with a plywood floor that I'm finishing as a she shed. It would be climate controlled while she's using it, but generally not otherwise. What type of flooring would you recommend would work best in that environment?
I would say probably the best thing would be the vinyl or SPC plank. The main thing you're going to do is just make sure you leave enough expansion room there, because if it's not always going to be climate controlled, then that product will expand and contract as it goes through the cycles of the heat and the moisture. So vinyl would be the best thing. It can go over the plywood substrate, no problem. With the understanding of, with the AC not always being on, you may have an additional creak or crack, or it may move around a little bit more, because all those products really are designed to be in a controlled environment at all times.
Jason, does that floor get glued down or thrown down, or are there different applications? I'm getting so many questions about it.
There's a couple different applications. There are ones that are a glue down process. The majority of them lock together, and that's what we install, I would say 99% of the time. It makes it a lot easier. There's no glue, there's nothing to move around, there's nothing to clean up. So the product comes right out of the box, ready to go. We click it together, and it's ready to be walked on, lived on, move the furniture onto it right away. So that's what we use most of the time. The glue down stuff is a little less expensive, but over time, the stuff that locks together seems to hold together better and provide a better moisture barrier.
Okay. Does the lock together? This is my last question on this one. Does it have an underlayment, or is underlayment already on the product?
Most of the stuff now comes with an attached underlayment, so the manufacturer is now putting on, exactly what they require, what they need. Most stuff has that now. Most stuff is going to be locking. Most stuff is going to have the attached backing already. Your lesser end products, for the most part, won't have that, so you would still need to buy a vinyl underlayment, which is different than just a wood floor laminate underlayment, by the way. So you'd still need to buy that separate, but that's probably a pretty rare case. Most of the stuff now has it already attached.
Okay.
If you have questions for Jason, anything about flooring, whether you're replacing your flooring or you're getting want to figure out what's wrong with the flooring you have or what have you, no one knows more about wood and tile, vinyl, carpet, and all that than Jason. And of course, your partner Ryan, the two of you, your business partner Ryan, know a lot about them as well. So let's go ahead and get some of the questions. And we also have questions that we're sharing today from our Ask Tom section at homeshowradio.com. And I got one for you here, Jason. It says, this is from Ira. She was over in Braes Oaks. She says, we have an 8 by 8 inch tile squares in our entry and living area. And my wife wants larger, up-to-date tile squares. And he wants to know, can the new ones be laid on top of the old ones?
That's kind of a multi-set question there. So the easy answer is yes. You can lay the new tile over the existing tile. However, there's a lot of technical things you need to be watching out for. One of the most common problems is the difference in height. If you have an existing floor tile that's taking up a ½ inch of space, and then you add another floor tile on top of that, you're talking about creating the area where that has the tile, the new tile, maybe an inch higher than the other areas. So that's one thing folks don't talk about. Also, the existing tile that's down now would have to be obviously attached well. You wouldn't want to lay over something that had a bunch of cracks in it or was loose, something along those lines. If those things are both okay, I would still recommend putting down a primer over the top of the existing tile so that the new tile and thin set will stick really well. So if we were to do it, those are the things that we would look for and to make sure those were in line before we would actually do the project. But to answer the question simply, yes, you can put tile over tile.
Jason, don't you run into some trouble with the baseboards? You start to lose them and they get smaller and smaller because the tile gets higher and higher. And then you have door transitions and thresholds if it's a front door entryway. There's other little things people have to think about when it comes to that, don't they?
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. That kind of goes back to the height thing. You're adding all this extra height to the existing tile. Most of the time when people ask me that, it doesn't work out for the best interest. Occasionally, we just did one recently. We were able to do that because the entire area that they wanted to do was covered in tile, which was the whole house. And it just so happened that the door jambs did work out okay, front door, back door. A lot of times you have problems with the very tight dishwashers are very tight a lot of times underneath. Yeah. So sometimes those get trapped in. If you have built-ins with your refrigerator, those can be a problem. You could have problems with your toilet flanges as well. If you're doing half baths, or bathrooms, because now you're again adding all that extra height to it, so your toilet flange or your toilet may not go down properly. So there's a lot of technical things that would go into a full install. But again, I mean, technically, yes, you can put two pieces of tile together on top of each other.
I'm with Tom. I'm wondering, like, at what point do you start, you know? I mean,
Yeah, you can eat up a lot of space in those things. That's definitely stuff to consider. And again, occasionally it works out, but most of the time, when you factor in those other things that we've discussed, it's usually not in the best interest of the homeowner to go forward with that plan. Most of the time, it's easier and best just to go ahead and take it out.
All right, we got a couple questions that come in while we've been answering these questions. Just Derek just wanted to call in. Derek, I love you, but I don't know how to pronounce your last name at all, and I don't want to take a chance at slaughtering it. So he says he's a longtime listener. He appreciates it. We heard from your Sandra earlier, Tom, and now we're going to hear from my Sandy. She's written in, and she wants to know, Jason, what causes the hollow sounding spots under my kitchen tile flooring?
I don't know what caused it, but the reason why it's hollow is it's probably not attached anymore to the substrate. So when you install tile, you use a thin set that will, lock into the back of the tile to, I'm assuming, a concrete substrate, which would be your subfloor. So somewhere in there, it sounds like that bond has broken, whether it be time or maybe the slab's moved, or there's a litany of things that could have caused it. But if there's a hollow sound, then that typically means that the tile isn't attached to the substrate anymore.
I want you to Tom, before you chime in, Jason, I want you to tell me, this is no need to replace the entire kitchen floor, though, right?
Without taking a look at it, it would be difficult.
Jason, for God's sake.
I was going to say, no, the whole floor has to come out. It's a goner. It's history. You need to go searching for some real high-end porcelain tiles, Sandy. You'll find the good stuff. Okay.
Our next question comes to us from Kenneth in Sugarland. He says, I had engineered hardwood installed with a recommended underlayment, and it's evident that floor leveling wasn't done because in a number of areas he is hearing popping sounds. Besides pulling up the entire floor, having it leveled and glued down, is there an alternative? He says, I've heard about drilling a small hole in strategic areas and injecting glue down there, but I wanted your recommendation.
Man, these are some pretty technical questions today. So easy answer is yes, that is something that can be done. But if you're drilling a hole in your floor to pump in glue, glue is used to adhere the floor to the substrate, not to make up the void of the fact there not being the appropriate substrate there. So again, it's one of those things that, could you do it? Sure. But could you find somebody that would probably come in and do that for you? Probably not, because you're not really using that application correctly. Typically when that's done, you may have a board that didn't get fully glued down. Again, we were talking about the hollow spots a while ago. So that technique can be used in small applications to make sure that boards are adhered. So if it's just the board not being adhered properly, then maybe you could use that technique. But with you saying that you already know that there's leveling issues, you kind of already answered your own question there. There's not really a whole lot you can do with that other than to live with it. You can definitely try the glue aspect, but you'd literally be using the glue to fill in all the void, and you'd probably be causing a bigger mess than what you have now.
This might be the case, Charlie, where they need a whole new floor, unlike the question beforehand.
There's not too much different between the tile having hollow spots and losing, its adhere, and the wood floor doing the same thing. You're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, brand new floor. Okay. It's tough. But you know what? No, wait a minute, Jason. Even though it makes a little popping noise, I mean, it could make that popping noise for another 20 years and still look fine. Sometimes you have to live with some of the little things in life, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative, right? None of us have done an inspection on it. We don't know exactly what this stuff means. But, just to answer the question, as a technical aspect of it,
yeah,
sure. But, there's plenty of floors that I go and look at to replace, and they've been popping or cracking or doing something for years, and people have lived with it for however long. So, it's all about how you want your house and what you're comfortable with living on. But I can just give you the technical spec on whether it's right or wrong.
I understand. I have to do the same thing when I do the show. Both sides of the fence. I understand.
David in Clear Lake has a question for you. He says, I was laying tile on a concrete slab in a bedroom. When I removed the carpet, there was a lot of efflorescence between the mat and the tack strips. Do I need to put down a moisture barrier like he calls Red Guard before the thin set?
Man, super technical today, everything. So efflorescence. Obviously, there's some type of moisture issue there. If you're having efflorescence, or it could be calcium deposits. A lot of times those two things get confused. So obviously, if you're installing tile isn't going to be injured by a little excess moisture. So technically, you wouldn't need to put the Red Guard down. But as you know, if it makes you feel better, and it definitely wouldn't hurt. But the main thing is maybe try to figure out where the moisture is coming from. I may try to do that before I just try to stop it. So if you have efflorescence and/or calcium deposits, you know that there's a moisture migration issue. So I might try to figure out where that's coming from instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it with the Red Guard first.
Jason, because I've done the show for so many years, you try to think ahead, and what they might be saying is the tack strips along an exterior wall is having this happen, which means outside where the flower beds are, they could have a drainage issue. You're right on with the moisture. And so what I'm thinking, Charlie and Jason, I would, if I had this person in face-to-face or on the show where I could ask them the question, my question would be, is it on an outside wall? And I think there's a good chance I'd get an affirmative on that question.
Is that a case, Tom, where then you start looking at the runoff from the drainage on the house?
Drainage, it could be roof, it could be flower beds, it could be mulch piled up to the house. It could be the neighbor's dog. No, it's not the dog. But it's going to be some kind of water.
He really likes that part of the house. He's like...
Yes. But, no, he's right. It's water. It's water. And I bet you anything, it's an exterior wall. And you're going to have the tack strips around the outside of the room, right? So
you run into that. I'm sure you run into those kind of issues with moisture, Jason, on flooring, where it's something beyond the house, like landscaping and drainage, like Tom's talking about, I imagine.
Yeah, moisture migration in our area of Houston is something that we deal with quite a lot with the way our slabs were built so well and the way our water table is so low. Those are both facetious. So we deal with that stuff a lot. So moisture can be really, really tricky. A lot of these questions are really, really tough to give definitive answers without doing an inspection, because every house is going to be different. If the house is really old, a lot of times that stuff's just coming up straight through the slab because either the plastic beneath the slab is gone, or we've had a lot that the drain pipes. A lot of times people have plumbing, will test their plumbing, and they'll test the charge side, but they won't test the drain side. And a lot of those old clay pipes, particularly around the I-10 corridor, all that stuff is just dead, and it just leaches that water right back up and it picks it up. So there's so many things that could be causing the moisture. The main thing, again, I would want to do is figure out where the moisture was coming from first. Because you want to identify where it's coming from and not just put a Band-Aid on it. The Red Guard will stop moisture coming from that area, but you haven't stopped the moisture from. It'll just, as soon as it finds the area without the Red Guard, it'll go right up in that area instead. So all you've done is just move the water however many feet where you don't put the Red Guard. It's gonna find its way in.
Tom would say a house is not a
boat. And even with a boat, you got to handle it from the outside. You don't wait for it to get on the inside and say, Red Guard, we'll be fine. Let's go across the Atlantic. It doesn't work that way.
Let's go. I'm going to cross the Atlantic in my 2-bedroom ranch. Here it comes.
Get that. What do they put that screen door boat, and they put that rubber flex
seal. That's what we got to put on there. Yeah. Actually, and I would say that the person for them to call would be Mike Ball about irrigation, about the property.
If it is the irrigation problem, yes.
Yeah, and Mike, you can find, like all our Home Show pros, you'll find them at homeshowradio.com right there on the homepage. So, Jason, I know that speaking of moisture issues, we have a world premiere video that we've just finished producing that took a long time to shoot. I think we've been working on this since Obama was in the White House with you.
It seems like that.
It seems that way. No, but we started shooting this before the whole COVID hit the fan, and we're finally able to go out and finish shooting this video. You want to kind of set this up and tell us a little bit about the customer and the story, because you've been working with him for a while.
Yeah, kind of the theme of this video was to do a house that we've been working on for years. We've been working for this customer for over 10 years. And so we've slowly done different changes to their home. We pretty much redone the entire house and actually converted the garage. They've converted into a she cave and a media room, and so we've done the flooring in this whole house, and so it's just kind of nice to see. I think the video will show when we did the last piece, which is take the tile out of the kitchen and then kind of weave the whole wood floor all back together. They have wood floor in the whole downstairs, so something we're very proud of.
There are a lot of surfaces here. So I'll tell you what, before we go, we thank you for being with us today, Jason, and I hope we can have you back again, because there sure were a lot of questions about flooring. We'll see if next time we can get you some more technical questions.
That would be great. I'll get my books out and be ready to go better this time.
All right. Thanks a lot,
Thank you, Jason.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
I've had the same yard man for 15 years, the same pool guy for probably over 15. I've had the same maid for 15. So when I find a guy that I kind of like and they take care of me and I can take care of them, it just works for me.
Admit it. Behind this garage door, you hope there is a man cave.
It's something I've wanted forever.
Stay focused. This is a story about flooring.
We put in some nice wood floor in the game room area.
But wait, there's more.
Some nice custom carpet with some risers that we tucked all nice for the actual media room.
Yes, this is a story about flooring, but it's also a story about trust.
A toilet overflowed and it flooded the entire house. So we were able to put brand new wood floors in throughout every room of the house.
Not every room. The kitchen was travertine, also done by Texas Floors.
10 years ago, when they had that look with the travertine and the wood, where the kitchen was separate, that was the style. That's what everyone was doing.
In style 10 years ago. Now,
that style is kind of old and tired.
Another way to put it,
just played out.
The new style they wanted? Old school, matching the wood floor from the next room that was laid down years ago.
When we do a project like this, we buy more than what we need, so we can pick through the box and find the pieces that match the best, particularly at the joint.
You can't tell where old ends and new begins. But I have one question. Aren't they worried about having real wood flooring in the kitchen?
But you want what you want, and if they get messed up, I'll just call the Texas Floors and they'll take care of it for me, so.
I think it's the greatest compliment anyone can get, that it provides a service. It says that the customer trusts you and respects what you're doing.
Taking care of customers for years and years is an important part of what makes Texas Floors a certified Home Show Pro. For HomeShowRadio.com, I'm Tom Tynan.
That's why they are Home Show Pros. I mean, that shows you the kind of work that all our Home Show Pros are capable of doing.
Absolutely. And you're just going to get it done right by a company that's going to back it up. That's just the way it is with all our companies.
I got a couple questions that came in that were not necessarily flooring questions here while Jason was on. I want to kind of get to those. Ralph wrote us a question here, Tom, about replacement windows. He says, can you explain the return on investment when installing new windows? He feels like it's not always cost effective to replace windows. What do you say about that?
If you're looking purely at the monetary payback, he's absolutely right, because the windows are expensive. And, if you're going to just buy a product like a radiant barrier, insulation, an air conditioning system, something like that, and you're doing it just purposely for a quick payback, it's very rare you're going to find any that's going to pay you back with 5 years or less. And that's usually the rule you want to follow. So like one of the biggest bangs for the buck on a payback would be a radiant barrier. It's the least amount of money you put out and you get the greatest savings back. But now let's talk about windows. Old windows, they could be a mess. They don't lock right. They let a lot of noise in. You're uncomfortable in the winter time when it gets cold. That's when I really get the calls on the show, when we get these cold fronts coming through. So it's more of a lifestyle and some payback and energy savings too. But with energy costs low, it's going to take a long time. But you got to put all the other factors in, and that goes with anything you buy today. It could be an electronic, it could be a car, it could be a house. You don't need that room, but you want that room, or a swimming pool or something like that. So there's lifestyle issues too. So no, if you just look exactly at the money, it's not a great return on your investment. If you're looking at increasing the quality of life in your house and a better quality home, and maybe a faster resale, not a more expensive resale, but a faster resale, which is important, then windows can help a lot.
We put in those Gulf Coast windows, composite windows.
Fantastic windows.
Oh my God. The first thing we couldn't believe was how much quieter the house was when they went in.
Time.
And how much easier and how much more often we would open them because
Yeah.
we didn't have to fight them open like those old Kickerillo aluminum windows that came on the house. So, I'm sorry, builder grade.
Yeah, well, Kickerillo didn't make the windows. Everybody was using those cheap windows
Right,
back
I
then.
know
So
that.
I
I
can't
know
really
that.
beat him
I
up
feel,
on that.
hey, the guy lost his house in the flood of Harvey. I don't want to beat on him. So, but anyway, but the point is that you're right. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do that kind of upgrade. But I'll tell you what, the house, when we put those windows in, the return on investment we got was people in our neighborhood unsolicited came by and said how much better the house looked since we put the windows in. And so we know that from a curb appeal point of view, it made a big difference. All right. I got another question for you here. It came in from Derek. Derek, thank you for understanding I couldn't pronounce your last name. I'm not going to try a second time. Okay? So he says he remembers when David Debian from Central City used to talk about using humidity removal by using undersized evaporator coils. And I don't hear that anymore. I have a 3-ton air handler, a 4-ton condensing unit, and a 2-ton evaporator coil. Oops, it disappeared on me here. With a 4-ton adjustable TXV. This combo works fantastic. Is this done anymore, Tom?
When David Debian came up with these oddball ideas back then, we're talking 2+ decades ago, the air conditioning industry just ignored it. They weren't doing anything to address the issues we have in Houston. Today, when you get into efficient systems and you get someone who's good about installing it, sometimes they will undersize. You never oversize the evaporator coil. That's a standard rule. But you don't see things called cap tubes anymore. Very, very rare. You're going to see expansion valves, which David used to talk about, the EV product he was talking about. Those are the things that would control the refrigerant depending on the humidity and the temperature. So David was putting together with different parts and pieces, which you actually buy now all in one piece. So that's why you don't hear of what is, by doing these different things, you don't have to anymore with these high SCER systems. But you still have problems. So if you don't get someone good that sizes it right, and make sure you get humidity control by having a drop across the coil of about 27 degrees, so you get good, cold, crisp air coming out and it's squeezing the water out. You still have that issue, but you don't need all these different pieces and parts that David used to do. He was a genius, and he would probably dissect a new system today and make it even better also. It's just the way he was.
Yeah, I know he put the air conditioning unit in our first house. He replaced our system, and you're right, it was an amazing system, and never it just worked. No, speaking of working, I know that you're going to be working this Saturday your normal shtick.
Yes.
You want to tell people
9
what that
to
is?
12, right after Danny Milliken, our garden guru, and all his garden guru friends who happen to be, we call them what, Charlie? Because I
Garden
don't.
Pros, the home show garden pros. That's exactly
There are
right.
nurseries all over town, and Charlie knows more about it. He's the one that kind of runs the show. But I know Danny. Danny knows stuff.
I run the show. That's right. You know what it is? It's kind of like I've got the treats. I keep people kind of running. But yeah, I couldn't
We're going to do that. And then at 1 o'clock, Charlie, you're going to have to do this one.
Okay, so here's the deal. This is what I was kind of leading up to about working. So Tom will do the normal show from 9 to noon on Sports Radio 610. Then at 1 o'clock, we're going to come back on here with a special Facebook Live as part of the, hang on a second, I've got my notes right here.
Oh, now you know what I go through, huh? Yes. Wait a minute. Where's that copy? Wait a minute.
Okay.
Yes.
Part of the Montgomery County Fall Home and Outdoor Living virtual show. I have to read it because they keep changing the names of these damn things. But anyway, it's going to be the Montgomery County Fall Home and Outdoor Living virtual show. And as part of that show, within the show, we're going to be doing Facebook Live. And so that means that if you don't get a chance to get on with Tom on Saturday on the show, or maybe you want to come and ask him again or learn some more stuff about what's going on. They're going to have a bunch of booths, virtual booths in there. Be just like going to a home show, but you're doing it on your computer. And we'll be doing the Ask Tom the Ask Tom Live as part of that show. That's our little shtick. We'll have some videos, and our special guest as part of that show will be Vic Casso from TDT, who will be here to talk about repiping or restoring your plumbing with the E-pipe system. So that's all going to be at the Montgomery County Fall and Home and Outdoor Living virtual show on Saturday. You can see right here, there's a lot.
I was talking to Sandra on the phone last night. She saw this advertisement about this. Is this like the first virtual show in the country? I mean, everybody says it's the new normal, but I've never heard of a virtual show, and I had to extract stuff out of her because I was wondering, how is this working? I understand it now, but are we on the cutting edge again?
Well, if we're on it, there's nothing normal about it. Let's just stipulate to that.
Okay, fine. Well, maybe no. Tony's on the cutting edge, right?
Yeah, no, Tony's on the cutting edge. In fact, tonight at about 9:30, I'm going to be on with their dealing with their tech people, getting it all set up for us to do the show. But yeah, no, it's the first of its kind that they've ever done. So it promises to be fun. And we'll see, then there's another one coming up. What's the next one here? The next one is in October. So we will have licked our wounds and healed of them by then. And we'll do it again for the Sci-Fair Home and Outdoor virtual show as well. But this Saturday, if you really want to see us make fools of ourselves, you want to be part of it starting at 1 o'clock. The show is open all day, but we'll be there at 1 o'clock. They're going to have that antique lady there, and they're going to have a bunch of other people. Danny is going to be doing a presentation. The garden pros are going to be involved with it too. So you want to check that out. Their website is right here at the tip of my finger. Tell me
I know that feeling.
I guess if you go to texwoodshows.com, you can figure it out. I'll talk to Tim Johnson after this. He didn't give me a prep sheet for this, so I'm kind of winging it. Of
really?
course, I didn't ask for one either.
Wow.
So.
Never been there.
Okay, so what Tom is telling you is I'll give him a hard time when he doesn't follow the fact sheets. And, now here I am, and he's just back there loving every minute of it. All right, no, but texwoodshows.com, you can learn more about it there, and we'll look forward to seeing you Saturday. And Tom will look for you on the radio. I'll be with you Sunday morning on Early Edition. And remember, the Garden Pros are there on Saturday morning, and that we will be back here live next Thursday at 4 o'clock again. By the way, next Thursday, our guest is going to be David from RCW, David Williamson. He'll be here to talk fall gardening as part of our Facebook Live next Thursday. But we'll see you Saturday at 1 o'clock at the Home and Garden Show.